Welcome back to India Tonight. We're discussing the government's direct taxes code bill. Gentlemen, let's come to the question, does this code bill actually show a vision or a lack of vision? Mr. Singhvi, would you say to critics who point out that there is no real big vision behind the bill, that in a real sense is a reflection of the character and the composition of this government? If this government has a vision, it's reflected in measures such as the NREGA, the Food for Security Bill, the various health missions or RTI. This government doesn't seem to have a vision of liberalizing economic reforms. Would you agree with that?
I have 2 points here. I think to some extent this has been sacrificed, and I see no reason for hurrying it up and passing it, or at least taking it to the parliament in such a short period when the intent was to introduce in 2012. I think we have to that extent missed an opportunity. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, I don't think this bill will really hold us through next 15-20 years. If you look at the next 10, 15, 20 years of economic growth of India, I don't think this bill has really captured how it want to incentivize and how it wants to really tax the income in next 15, 20 years.
Well, that
so to that extent, I'm a bit disappointed.
That suggests to me, particularly your second point, that the vision that should have underlaid this bill is missing. And you're sort of also suggesting that if the government had given itself more time, it might have found the vision that's missing.
Very clear. I have no doubts in my mind on that we should have really held a lot of more discussions after a discussion paper was put through, and it was in such a hurried manner it was done, then 30-day suggestions, and then you introduced in the parliament. I see no reason why it was hurried so much when intent was to be done in 2012. So definitely something is amiss here.
All right, it sounds as if we have a government in search of a vision. I'm not sure whether that is equating to myopia, but the Economic Times, just to go back to that paper, says, bearing in mind that this bill has been referred to a select committee, there's still hope for course correction. Do you think the missing vision can be supplied by your colleagues in a parliamentary standing committee, or is that expecting too much?
No, that's certainly expecting too much. I have had little in the Rajya Sabha for the last 1 month. But I realized that the standing committees basically have to work within the framework of what is presented by the government. The vision cannot be provided by a standing committee
Although,
of finance.
forgive me, on the nuclear liability bill, the standing committee virtually created a new bill.
Yes, that's true. That was an exception where the government also was looking for consensus.
You don't think that's possible here?
But I have one observation I would like to make, Karan. They have brought in certain draconian measures in this bill, which kind of scare you a little bit. Something like the General Anti-Avoidance Rules, the GAAR. They watered that down a little bit in the revised code. But I'm a little scared, and once the guidelines come in, to borrow a phrase from you, there could be devil in the detail. And that makes us a little worried that the bureaucracy, the
Select committee, there's still hope for course correction. Do you think the missing vision can be supplied by your colleagues in a parliamentary standing committee, or is that expecting too much?
No, that's certainly expecting too much. I have had little experience in the Rajya Sabha for the last 1 month, but I realized that the standing committees basically have to work within the framework of what is presented by the government. The vision cannot be provided by a standing committee
Although,
of finance.
forgive me, on the nuclear liability bill, the standing committee virtually created a new bill.
Yes, that's true. That was an exception where the government also was looking for consensus.
You don't think that's possible here?
But I have one observation I would like to make, Karan. They have brought in certain draconian measures in this bill, which kind of scare you a little bit. Something like the General Anti-Avoidance Rules, the GAAR. They watered that down a little bit in the revised code. But I'm a little scared, and once the guidelines come in, to borrow a phrase from you, there could be devil in the detail. And that makes us a little worried that the bureaucracy, the tax officials would probably get unfettered powers, and that could lead to corruption.
So even if there's no angelic vision lurking inside this bill, there might be a Dracula somewhere.
There could be some problems, yes.
Mr. Ranina, let me broaden this discussion about vision and put the following to you. When it comes to tax matters, the last century showed that it takes the ideological conviction of a Reagan or a Thatcher to make dramatic, far-reaching changes. Would you say that in India, we don't seem to have that ideological conviction, at least when it comes to matters of tax?
I entirely agree with you, Karan. Let me talk about, when you talk about vision, let me remind you that this entire direct taxes code has been drafted only by bureaucrats who are part of the North Bloc sitting in Delhi. There's not a single professional person or not a single industrialist, a businessman or an economist who was made part of this committee. So the whole object of this exercise has been, as I said earlier, to tighten the law from the tax revenue point of view, to increase the revenues for the government. It's entirely being, the vision is the vision of getting more tax revenue, garnering more grain. There is no other vision in this direct taxes code. There's no Thatcher involved, no Reagan involved. As you know, even Mr. Chidambaram did not have any particular input in the drafting of this bill. He merely made sure that the bill was drafted by these particular persons on the lines that were given to him.
Can I put a somewhat tendentious question to you? Bearing in mind that Mr. Chidambaram was responsible for the 1997 dream budget, as they called it, do you think that if he'd had a direct input, rather than, say, someone like Mr. Mukherjee, you might have found more dramatic changes, perhaps even the sort of vision that's missing?
Well, in fact, when he came back as a finance minister in 2004, and he appointed this group of commissioners of income tax from various parts of India to draft the direct taxes code, he left it completely to them. I don't think he shared any vision of his own for what he wanted, because that would then have been reflected in this bill. And of course, Mr. Chidambaram had almost 4 years. He was there right from 2004 to 2009.
In which case, Mr. Singhvi, let me take up that point and put this to you. Why is it that Indian politicians do not have far-sighted vision in terms of the economic potential of development and what they need to do to encourage enterprise and to release the animal spirits of the Indian people? Why is it that we shy away from economic vision, financial vision, tax vision, but clearly we have political vision in other fields?
Karan, to my mind, I think, sorry for my being a little arrogant here, but I think Bombay is about 1,200 kilometers away from Delhi. And to a very large extent, what you said, the answer lies here. The intellectual property in terms of economic growth, in terms of business, commerce, lies most of the time in Bombay, not in Delhi. So unfortunately, most of the time these things are, as Mr. Ranana rightly put, cooked and served in Delhi, and Bombay is just a bystander and watches most of the time what is being done. We just have professionals trying to just decode what has been put in Parliament, but we don't have a say in how it should be done. We just criticize or we comment on that, but that's the role we play.
Many would say that's a very fair point. Mr. Goyal, do you think that in fact we need to introduce more of the Bombay culture, more of the Bombay thinking into Delhi's hide-bound, framework-bound politics?
I think all of us are from Mumbai, so obviously we would have a little bit of a, would have a preference for Mumbai, but certainly Mumbai brings into the Indian economy a certain culture, a certain understanding of economics and finance, which I think if Delhi was to recognize, it would only be for the better. And I think if once the Standing Committee on Finance starts deliberating on this issue, I will be delighted to play a bridge between Delhi and Mumbai, and I will be open to all sorts of consultations and discussions in Mumbai to take the voice of Mumbai to Delhi.
Let me ask you a question, bearing in mind that not only do you come from Mumbai, forgive me, I've been calling it Bombay, but in addition, you're also a chartered accountant by profession. You've been a governor or a director of the State Bank of India as well. Do politicians in India fight shy of economic issues because they don't understand them, or because somehow they have this Brahminical belief that money is filthy lucre and is dirtying and wrong?
No politician, I think money is filthy lucre, and we have enough examples in the political space.
They normally like the filthy lucre, the more the better.
No, but clearly I think there's a lack of understanding. Economic subjects are not easy for every politician, and we have politicians of different hues and cries from all over the country, many of them with a rural background. But we have several politicians in Delhi, in the parliament, who understand economics, who understands the implications of all these things. And I'm sure the Standing Committee of Finance, and if I get an opportunity, if the party places me in that, I will certainly agitate on several issues. I have myself studied this code in the last 2 days, and I will work to improve that.
All right, and in the meantime, what you also suggest is a crash course in economics for all politicians at Sydenham College, Bombay. Right? My thanks to Mr. Ranina and Mr. Singhvi for joining me from Mumbai, and my thanks to Mr. Goyal for coming here to studio. And if you have been, thanks for watching. Goodbye. Good night.
India Tonight.